Bonjour Laurent. Hello, good morning. We're on November 16th. We're Thursday. It's our second episode. We'd like to cover AGI, to have an introduction.
Yeah.
And you did a presentation for Renus in logistic field 2 days ago, on Tuesday. So it was interesting to take it back and put it as an introduction of our series about artificial intelligence and here AGI, general intelligence. Then we will go, obviously, not too deep on those new OpenAI announcements because we want to target directly ChatGPT to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
We will have some hands-on today, and obviously, stay here, stay tuned, or maybe scroll if it is too boring. But somewhere in the middle of this podcast, we will answer to the question of about privacy, intellectual property. Is it safe to use ChatGPT in your context right now? So stay tuned, is here. So your presentation was about AGI, and
yes.
There you did put your other hat, or maybe both of the hats.
Probably both, yes.
Kind of novelist,
yeah.
To make some perspective, forecasting about what could be the future. Before getting to the future, you went deep in our roots and back in the past by maybe 2 centuries almost.
Almost, yes.
To contextualize, in fact, this within the, let's say, society evolution without saying human evolution.
But at least recent history of.
So where do you start about this?
Yeah, you're right. I was at the conference where I discussed the future of AI, and I took the audience on a journey, futurist journey. And as you said, the presentation started in the past, and precisely at the beginning of the 1800s, 1830, with Babbage. Babbage was a gentleman from the UK, and he was a polymath, was an engineer, a mathematician, and he developed a machine called the difference machine. And the idea of the difference machine was to be able to automatically calculate complicated mathematical functions like logarithms and trigonometric functions.
Yeah. So it was a calculator.
Yeah.
Quite abstract already because it was able to be programmed for the second generation.
Yes.
Is there?
Yeah. So while he was building this machine, he realized that he probably should have done something more generic, and he called this the analytic machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely this. The idea was that it was programmable, so you could provide the machine with instructions, and you could provide the machine with data. Yeah, and so they built a prototype out of it. And what was interesting is that when he visited the machine with his wife said, "Oh, today we went to see the intelligent machine."
Yeah, his wife was also known, huh?
Lady Brian.
Yeah. So that led us to mid 20th century, 1950, the Turing Test. That is probably the most known test in an IT field, at least. Basically, this is about a test to answer to the question: can we differentiate a machine? Not sure that we're talking already about artificial intelligence, namely, but a machine from a human. So basically, a person is placed in a way that is not seeing a machine and a human, and is communicating by writing with both of them.
Yes.
How is done exactly? You have an operator on the machine transcripting probably on the paper, because of course there is not a chat at that time, whatever the system there. But the foundation of that was, is a human is capable to differentiate another human from a machine, and the machine from another human.
Correct.
And we discussed about this a few days ago, and we even came mind blown. But it can be also the opposite now, that we see some AIs that probably go further than human intelligence on few topics, and probably could be now a trap and a way for us to detect. And basically is what we're doing, when you look at LinkedIn, all those posts, we see now this pose is too perfect. The wording use
Yes.
is like too advanced. This is not that guy. I do
Yeah.
it. So probably you can.
So now you can identify the machine not just because it is as good as humans, but because it's better than you.
Yeah.
And you're like, but that's not a human.
So maybe we're still in this time where the line is blurry in between the human and the AI. So it starts to be difficult to see who is the human from the machine. But now the machine can produce things that are too perfect.
Clearly, it's not human.
That's very interesting.
As you said, it's at the time it was a thought experiment, and as you said, it was surely based on exchanging text because well, you wouldn't want to hear the voice or see because that would be a giveaway. Nowadays, probably with voice, we could definitely simulate.
Definitively, it's one factor. Yeah.
So that's interesting. Yeah, and then I moved on in my presentation. I moved to the late 50s, I think 1956, because I was talking about when was the AI discipline really established for the first time as an academic research and development field, and that was what was called the Dartmouth workshop.
Exactly. Yeah. Dartmouth.
Yeah. And this was famous people in the industry. I mean, in the discipline was there. Claude Shannon was there.
What you have to say here is all of this were very theoretical.
Yes, very theoretical. And what's interesting with this workshop is that nobody was talking about risks. I think this was still left to sci-fi and novelists.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were not talking about. They were actually talking about, wow, this will change our world in a positive way, and we have to go there.
It's basically developing a machine that led to computers, basically.
Yes.
That we're not raising any of those questions.
Exactly.
Yet. So there you call it like there is the AI winter.
There are a few AI winters. Yeah. So
particularly this blog from the 70s to the 90s, basically.
Yeah, not much happened. The thing was that it was probably overhyped. From different point of views. First from the technology point of view, the technology was just not there. From the computation power and from the...
And probably we've been busy with IT, computers, networking.
Yeah, exactly.
Setting up the cloud storage.
Yeah, exactly. Creating the internet.
Basically creating the infrastructure to say, okay, so AI now we can start again.
And the other point was a more theoretical point of view is that the models at the time were not understood clearly, nor was it understood how to solve complex problems. I mean, it was understood from a human point of view, but it was not understood how to model that. Right? Yeah. How is it a neural network? How do we do this? And so what happened out of this? What came out of this winters was that instead of making a general artificial intelligence or AGIs, it was about making specific AIs. And
so there typically is like the chess.
Exactly.
Kasparov and this Deep Blue of IBM.
Yeah.
Where we're at the end of the 90s.
Correct.
97, 98, somewhere there.
Yeah. And it was not just one game, right? It was a World Chess Championship. So it was multiple games that were lost. It was
it was a new machine playing chess and winning all the time.
Yeah,
basically.
Correct.
At the beginning, still Kasparov was able to beat the machine.
But then
no.
Tune in a few knobs.
It's clearly chess is over. There is one that is more recent, is about Go. It was AlphaGo of Google a few years back.
Yeah.
I think in Europe and Western, we don't know the game of Go, but the number of possibilities is so high that the exploration of the trees is impossible from an algorithmic point of view. It's more complex than chess itself, so it's why it resisted. And two things here before getting back, because this is one key feature. You had the AlphaGo, so basically they trained this virtual player of Go on all the parties from the history of Go. They did learn from that, etc. And then once they reached the level to beat the champion, I don't remember his name. Again, it's Western, we're more focused on chess. That was exceptional. Was like really mind blown everyone. they restarted with this AlphaGo 0. So it means starting without knowledge and let the machine building his own knowledge by playing against it himself, probably, or several games that in parallel, whatever the mechanism, to build up the database of the games that are leading to success and the one that are leading to failure, basically. And it's unbeatable. Now it's like clearly a field is finished. The machine is stronger than the human. I say that because it's one element in the futurist part, I suppose, that is the exponential curve of those technologies. Clearly, we're going to have like machines that are going to learn faster and faster and faster. Okay. Maybe let's go back a bit in the field, in the stream of your presentation. So there you want to talk so late 2000, 2008, 2009. You have a political consciousness that start to step in about AI and basically its implication on society, security, etc.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so in the 2008 and 2009, there were a number of workshops that were done to explore the potential future of AI. It was called the Panel on Long-Term AI Futures. And within those different workshops, they explored the positive impacts of AI, healthcare, medicine, innovation, maybe new scientific discoveries, maybe even solving societal issues. And they were also looking at negative effects of AI, maybe job displacement, maybe the use of AI by rogue nations, maybe other forms of misusing AIs. But what was interesting is that even for those lesser positive forms of usage, they were looking at how can they be managed and risk managed in a sense.
Means regulated.
Basically. Regulated and explore other avenues. Like what happens if there is a job displacement? Are there any new jobs that could be created? Could we convert people to do, other jobs? So it was quite interesting.
Yeah, and probably military usages.
Yeah, they talked about
so when you talk about rogue states, but not only rogue states, but superpowers, basically.
Of course, using and abusing, in different forms.
And one of the main risks that today is really like highlighted is the fake news, basically construction of information that is like at scale that we can't imagine right now. So that was already explored at that time?
It was, but not as much as today, because what has changed today with GPT is that it can do anything from text to voice to videos. So at the time, probably they were looking at ways, but not as a single, how could I explain? As a single form. So maybe in text, maybe in newspapers, maybe as a sound, but not as a...
Okay, but still not like omniscient
exactly.
as it is today.
Yeah.
Okay. So that leads us to the present, basically.
Yes.
So you call it the awakening.
The awakening,
so
yes.
Basically, or we can say the monster is unleashed, clearly.
The Pandora box is open.
It went that fast.
Yeah.
We did repeat it several times, but it's the main topic about the present is omniscient and omnichannel.
Yeah.
So from the text itself to the voice, to the images, images static or videos. It's really like polymorph in this aspect.
And they call it multimodal.
Multimodal.
Yes.
So maybe in this introduction of to AGI, we talk about state of mind. So I think now it's pretty popular. Everyone has understood that in our field and out of IT field. So fear of mind is like there's one reality, fact, but we have perception of the reality that can be slightly different. So it's your state of mind can be different of the reality or different of my state of mind. And this is like an abstraction that was for a long time inaccessible to the machines. And there, those systems, ChatGPT particularly, take those problems pretty easily. And you gave an experiment to make it multimodal. So you took the famous story of Sally and Marie, of Sally and Paul. In this case, sometimes chocolate, here's a book. So basically you have Sally and Paul, they're in a room. There is a book on the table. One of them is leaving to another room. Sally, that is still in the room, is taking the book and putting it in a drawer. And the question is, where is the book? So the book is obviously in the drawer, but the state of mind is
from the
what
point of view.
think Paul.
So what thinks Paul, and Paul should think that it's still on the table. And
that the machine knows it.
Yes.
And the experiment you did, and we're going to put the picture here. Mm-hmm. So this is a comic, basically.
Yes.
And you removed part of the text.
Yeah, because the text was explaining the situation. So what I left was just the names.
Yeah.
Sally and Paul.
And then the result, we see it on there.
Yeah.
He understands everything.
Yeah.
And he compute both together. So the text, he has the name of the people.
Exactly.
And he understands that
what's interesting is that even he knows that Paul is going to the kitchen, and if you look at the drawing, it is the kitchen.
It was exactly my reaction to say I didn't notice it was a kitchen.
Yeah.
But it goes to that detail, basically.
So it's interesting that now with ChatGPT, not only does it pass this theory of mind test, it also passes the Turing test. So where are we going from here?
So that's true. That could be a good,
2 milestones.
It was a good way, this state of mind, to differentiate, to be a Turing test, basically.
Yeah. It's quite amazing.
So he passed it.
Yeah,
not on everything yet, and maybe it's too precise to be human-like.
Yeah.
To stay on this topic of modal, so image. There is also very powerful, is another example you're giving about mathematical resolution.
Yeah, so I took an old book of my university classes in abstract algebra, and I showed it. I took a picture of a page that contained exercises, and I said, "Can you help me solve exercise number 22?" And it's a quite complex exercise because it's abstract algebra, and so not only was it able to resolve the exercise correctly in the context of what was given, but I also asked it to explain each step to me and to explain which theorem it was calling upon, and it was able to tell me correctly. I was doing this, and now I'm doing that. I'm like, yeah. And don't forget, this is a language model. It is not a mathematical model. It's not a theory of mind model. It's what they call emergence, emergence of new features. This is quite interesting because although it has not been established on an academic point of view yet, the emergence, although I've read some papers recently that try to establish a framework around what does it mean.
So emergence, to be clear here, is like a skill that has not been taught and just emerge as a new skill.
Yeah. So in the real world is the emergence of water being liquid, although molecules of water are not liquid. So that's an emergence property. Mm-hmm. And so here in this context, we also talk about, AI specialists talk about emergence. And recently there have been attempts to make that a little bit more quantitative. Like what do we measure and how emergent is something. But even these examples show you that we have a language model that does theory of mind and that does mathematical computations, which are quite complicated and abstract.
Yeah. So that go back to the thing that thought are made of language. So I mean that logic can be made out of language, and just about language, it can solve complex mathematics, understand where it comes from. Give the impression you understand.
At least,
because always it's like probabilist model, but it's
still
close enough.
There seems to be more than just probability attached to that.
So then in the present, you do a little like a press landscape about the downside, basically, of AI that is happening.
Yeah. So the first example I gave was exactly something that was mentioned in this panel on long-term AI future, which was job displacement. So there's an example of a company in France that laid off a number of quite large, sizable size of their employees to replace them with AI. And the company was in the media
was doing, if I remember well, doing digest of for executive people of the daily news.
So daily news plus sentiment analysis of this daily news is what they did. Correct. Okay. Yeah, and so they were replaced
because we needed like a lot of human workforce to do this because it's quite complex on large volumes. Yeah. But here, in fact, you can keep a small team that augmented with AIs can drive large volumes by themselves.
Correct. And then some other examples are the negative usage of the image of a person. So deepfakes. I think there was an example of BBC celebrities and a very famous YouTuber, Mr. Beast, that was used. But you also can see it today if you watch YouTube and see some advertising with Elon Musk. It's not Elon Musk.
So that brings us to this AI Safety Summit that was beginning of November in UK.
Yes.
And that back to our episode 1 about sovereignty and somehow compliance and regulation that goes around the AI. Is there any major decision out of it? What did happen?
See you next year. Major announcement. So
okay.
So it was attended by 28 countries, so the European countries plus United States plus India and China, I believe. And it was not attended by head of states. I think only the one from India was participating in there. It was also attended by Elon Musk and other people knowledgeable and famous in this industry. And the summit had was over 2 days. They had a number of workshops and discussions. They published an agreement, which is quite short. I think it's 1,800 words, so, which ends with, see you next year. I think probably they were, as these summits take a long time to prepare, maybe they were overwhelmed by what was happening recently and they were not ready to discuss all those topics.
Yeah, and it's not going to get better on that cycle.
Exactly. I think what was interesting is the announcement of the European AI office. I think that's
already a decision.
Yes, I think that's a very positive decision.
What it shows that this topic doesn't fit in an existing topic. It's really a new field.
AI.
Otherwise, it will go in data protection or in IT or I don't know what. But they created a specific office linked to AI. So that shows how deep this is. Yeah. And this is understood.
Yeah.
So from there, now we get in the future, basically. So tomorrow...
future is tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe this afternoon, but
because there's there are these concepts,
so what is going to happen?
What's going to happen? Well, of course, we know all that there will be major impacts on industries. There will be transformation in all the industry, I would say. There will be definitely changes in society. There was something interesting we can mention later about the UN working with a AI company to look at ways of solving the Israeli-Palestine conflict. That's an indicator of how powerful AI has become as a tool. I'm not saying that they will use the outcome, but they're definitely looking at exploring ideas. I think there are positive impacts, as I said before, new scientific discoveries, healthcare, medicine, new drugs, new proteins, new discoveries in technology as well, ways of making car batteries more efficient, making production environments more efficient, making supply chains more efficient. So these impacted.
And probably also new discoveries, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Thing that we can't think of today.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how it was called, but there was something along the line of polymath AI. And they use it to, and they feed it scientific papers to look at correlations, not in a domain, but throughout many domains, cross domains. And that's what they expect. Find hidden discoveries, right? Things that are there, but we can't see because it's just too much of information.
Okay, so something that is pretty transversal, already existing, but not yet like captured as one.
We can't see it because it's just too much. Because,
And on the societal, you were talking also about new beliefs, new religions, manipulation of mass, even if
if you can manipulate masses, and I think we talked about multimodal, and we talked about how we could generate anything. I recently heard about the scam calls using famous voices. Hillary Clinton calling you for
please vote.
And it's not her, and and it's interesting. When I read this article about scam calls and voices, this has become a SaaS service actually. So you can actually buy these things online.
So SaaS, scam as a service.
Exactly, scam as a service. Yes. So if you could, if you can do that and manipulate masses through voice, text, and videos, then the simple next step is to create new beliefs. And if you can create new beliefs, you can create new religions.
And when you were investigating about this, you found this quite funny experiment
on Twitch
to have Jesus.
Reincarnation of Jesus. Wow. So the AI was trained on the Bible and probably some other instructions that keep it safe and behaving well. And people can talk to it. And
so they did a real-time visualization. So the same that we see at the screen. With Jesus that we see speaking and answering in real time to the questions that are asked by people. So at the beginning it was pretty loose. You could ask anything can you tell us something, whatever the question, without pronouncing the U and O. It was pretty stupid. So they did triage that now. And it's pretty serious.
I mean, I can see how people, maybe not with this one, but maybe the next iteration can be fascinated by this. I mean, it's quite amazing. I recommend to go on this channel and just have a look.
In the same field, I would say somehow is also companion, AI companion.
Yes.
The AI girlfriend to be clear.
Yeah.
You put that with the meta and you can make people disappearing from real life there.
Absolutely.
So it's thing that will come in the future. And you conclude this speech basically by 3 scenarios.
Yes.
Basically. So the first one is the Terminator one, the end of history.
So the first one I call the end of history, the end of human history, and the idea was based on what Fukuyama wrote in the beginning of the 90s. He wrote a book, The End of History. Although he was too early and probably wrong. He was right for the wrong reasons. But today, yes, if you can create beliefs and you can create culture through AI, then culture is no longer ours. We don't control the culture, so it's not our history anymore. I'm not saying it's the end of history; it's the end of human history. That's what I want to express in this. And based on what we talked about earlier, you could say, there's actually a way out of it. It's that, we are irrational. Remember Gödel, all that stuff. So maybe our irrationality keeps us safe from this AI.
Yeah. And there, when we discussed about that, I was telling you, but we're so predictable in our irrationality. Probably this irrationality can be replicated or anticipated.
Yes.
It's on both sides.
And you could keep in mind that there would probably not be one AI, but multiple AIs. So you could have multiple irrational behaviors replicated.
And that world of new, basically, could we have some different ethnies of AI?
And that leads me to the last world in which AI, different ecosystems or groups of AI would compete against each other, and by competing, improving.
So this the theory of evolution, basically.
Exactly.
That after cycles, you would have
nanoseconds. Right?
That back to the thing that the cycle are shorter and shorter and shorter until this exponential point of singularity.
Kurzweil singularity.
We have no idea where we go. Basically,
no.
It's still technology. It can start to be perceived by not specialists of the field, like becoming somehow human. It's our one of our main characteristic as a human to project our humanity on anything around us.
Yeah.
So we need, or we have at least a bias in perceiving systems as humans.
Yeah, it's like going back to Lady Byron when she said, she saw the Babbage machine and she goes like, "Oh, intelligent machine." Same thing today.
And it's pretty intelligent one. This one, artificially intelligent. Let's go now in like more concrete things. It's like OpenAI did announce pretty cool new features. So those famous GPTs.
Yeah.
So there is multiple example what it is, etc. But just in summary, is what does it address basically in our usage of ChatGPT since months now? Is each time we start a chat, we start on a blank page basically. So we need to re-explain everything. So I don't know, social media post, you always need to re-explain in which context. So for us, for example, what is Webellian, what we're doing, what is the culture, what is the tone we want to use,
kind of vocabulary you want to use or not use,
whatever, what event we want to talk about, and what particular point in this event, and you let it write basically the content based on your ideas. Still, there with the GPTs, you can train an agent within a scope that is defined. So you can create, I did basically my GPT assistant for social media. There I give what is called knowledge. So I give the context of what is Webellian, who I am, and what is a culture and the tone I want to, and that is once for all there. And it learn from, so we keep the memory of the chat basically. So we'll see now, it's like a week we're playing with it, because it's like Friday that has been released here in Europe at least. So we have a 1 week history. We already see some limitation, and we're like still wondering how it's going to work if he has good memory. So for example, for the social media post, after, I don't know, 20, 50 posts, how much it will be good to remember, reuse, and not contradict what was done in the past.
Before. Well, you can export it and put it in the PDF and give it as knowledge.
Again, and start with a new agent with this. Yeah, that's true. What limitation you saw in the usage for now? What was difficult for you?
I think at some point, I think the limitation is 10 files and or 100 megabyte. And I think after 6-7 files, it's just too much. It's confused. Something you really need to be very careful with are the instructions. It helps it to understand what to do with the knowledge. So not the instructions you give in the chat when you use this GPT, but there's also instructions that are specific to that GPT, right? And I think here as well you can tweak it over and over again. So what I would recommend is just iterate. You have to iterate, and what you learn or what it is telling you, maybe taking it back into either the knowledge file, PDF, whatever, or as an instruction, right?
I met exactly the same problem. So it's maybe an example I can show a bit hands-on. So it's what I started to build basically, HR legal advisor. That was a pretty interesting exercise. What do we want to do is to have a system that helps us to review our internal regulation of Webellian, or policies, our contract with like employees and B2B. And I did feed to this machine, to this agent, a new law that basically you download in PDF on the Polish government website. And I started like this. So at the beginning, I did the same. So I gave like 10 files. So all our contract templates, our internal regulation, the several laws, etc. And that was pretty confused, not working very well, very slow, having a lot of errors here and there. And I took the problem differently, and I still wonder what was the problem. So it's where I want to exchange here is that is too generalist or and not enough specific. So that one hypothesis, and I think is the one, or the volume.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't think it's the volume the problem, because I really gave like big PDF of law is like hundreds of pages. And on this one, it doesn't look to be like blocking.
Confused. Yeah.
So I reduced the scope. At the beginning, I wanted to do an HR specialist or expert assistant, and I reduced to the scope of the legal. So
but you reduced it by giving it more precise instructions.
Yes, and by the way, what we do is like with the editor, we give one file and we start immediately with the editor to say this is one file.
Chat builder.
And here it's something that probably we can share as our experience. The first thing is you go in the configuration. So basically, when you create a new agent here, I'm going to show on my screen. If I edit it, you have in the configure the file knowledge that you can upload, but I don't do it there anymore. I do it directly within the chat builder. So there you give one file and you explain what it is, and is putting automatically within the configuration in the knowledge part. So I advise to do more this than uploading the file yourself in the configuration. And based on this, basically, so we reduced the scope to just the law and our context of Webelian. So I did create a PDF explaining what is Webelian, what are our figures, what is the organization looks like, what is our culture. All this information I could assemble in one file, so it knows about the context of Webelian. And from there, I can start to do one thing that is pretty magic. The magic resides in the fact that, by the way, the law I give is in Polish that I don't really speak, and that allow me to be autonomous with context that I don't speak the language. Okay, so then I give in this context. This is our in Polish regulamin. It's like regulations and interior regulation, internal regulation of Webelian. And I can start to ask, is it compliant with Polish law? And the answers start to be pretty good to say, yeah, that cover the right and obligation, the work order, safety and hygiene, disciplinary measures, all of this that is, and is highlighting it. And then I can ask, and what is the impact of the new Polish law on our regulamin? And contextually, it's pretty precise. Following a list of items, there is 14 items here that you get in the same order than the law is defining. So it's pretty good. I had the opportunity to see also some templates that are given by our HR specialist that get approximately to the same, and we do that in few minutes basically.
Yeah.
And you had the same experiment or an experiment you saw about ISO or GDPR or both?
So in that experiment, we were looking at how to use ISO 27001, so information security management systems, and how to see if such a GPT could help us establish some rules, or could even check documents that were generated or that we created, and it could, like you, compare to the norm and say, well, you miss this clause, you should update this. This is not clear, and it was more than satisfactory. Because it's capable of doing this in minutes rather than hours. Again, it's a question of course, language, but it's also a question of quantity of information. Because ISO 27000 is a family of standards. How you look at it, it's a dozen of documents, and if you have to cross-check all of those,
for a human, is an expertise, is a full discipline. Basically.
Exactly. And now I'm not saying you can go without this expert, because you can't. There's still things you need to do, but still it gives you an edge when you start. Right? It helps you to quickly identify areas where you need to work on, where there's a gap. So doing gap analysis with these kind of tools is fantastic.
Because the most difficult in this exercise is to define the guide.
Yes.
Basically,
yeah.
the framework in which you're like.
So two things is the framework, absolutely, and the other one is the gap compared to what you have. So, for example, with the documents you uploaded and compared to the law, it would give you the gap and say, yeah, you're great here, but you're missing that. So it's exactly the same thing we do with ISO, and
GDPR. How do you?
Yeah, that's a similar idea because it's also part of this family of norms. It's about private information management. So you do something very similar. You look at policies about information management, and you look at how they are compliant with the different steps of clauses in GDPR. It's exactly the same. And what's interesting with that is that probably the language used in GDPR is not clear to everybody. It's not obvious what the different word means, like data processor, etc. So it helps you to also, how would I say, to maybe not be knowledgeable or quicker, but make sure that the words are used in the right way. This is really important for GDPR.
Is what I expect to talk about this vocabulary and the way it should be.
Yes.
That I took the Polish law. Yep. I'm going to write or review our documentation in English.
Yeah.
And then I will ask to this agent to translate it back in Polish, taking in consideration the vocabulary that is used in the law to get back basically somewhere.
Can't wait to see the result.
Where episode 3 is going to be. Let's look at the result, but it's we're pretty late, let's say, in the implementation of our ISO, etc. But I would have so much regret to have done that last year without GPT than now to be able to do it now. That the effort is totally different, and the quality of the result that we're going to bring on the table is going to be way.
Yes,
it's almost exponential. Quality that we're going to bring.
Yeah.
In the news, still to stick back to this. So one important thing here is the volumes. Okay, we got now to 128,000 tokens. So it means that you can give really big files. You will be able to read it.
I think they said 300 pages, equivalent.
I didn't reach the limit, and I did put one book of law that was pretty big. I don't know the number of pages. The store is going to step in. So in the episode 0 where I was doing the interview, I think I was mentioning this, but not sure where it was, or in another discussion, whatever, about kind of app store that is going to be there. I was not seeing that way indeed, but that's the start.
It's interesting, yeah.
I was more seeing the plugins part as an app store.
Yeah, but this is over.
But one is not excluding the other. So those GPTs, you will be able to have it for you privately, for the company, the organization you are in, and that is probably one new feature of management that is going to arise. So managers are going to train some agents to be able to support their teams.
Yeah,
probably.
Yep.
Surely see it this way. And you can put them public, and then public means you need to have a store to organize them.
It's interesting though, just to bounce back on the store and the idea that it's not apps or plugins, but it's different AIs. I think that's something similar what you heard with Humane. You remember the announcement of this device that you plug in on your chest or your clothes, and it looks at and it should replace phones, and it's fully AI. And the founder of Humane explained that there won't be any apps. The idea is that the AI will pull on other AIs to solve whatever problem it needs to solve.
So we see that it's specialized agent. It's like humans, okay? And it's like hiring a resource. Today you hire, I don't know, HR specialist, you hire a legal advisor, etc. Here is the same as you go through this agent. So here we see, for now, let's say the store that is not yet the store. You see what is made by OpenAI. So you have one is the negotiator, the one is game time. So if you want to play a game, know the rules to help you, etc. is there. You have the tech support advisor. Whatever. Is all the sous chef to give you some recipes. So we see that it's exactly like humans. The set of knowledge to have everything at once is pretty too much.
Yep.
And to solve problem, you need particular skills. So we specialize those agents.
Yep.
So come now the fact of can I share my data with this?
Mm.
Okay, that was really the topic. I give another example that what we experimented is I did this Payable analyzer. So it upload a test invoice, and I did prepare this agent. I don't need to say anything. It's programmed to only reply a JSON, and I hope is what he's going to do right now. So he says searching my knowledge.
Yeah.
He's analyzing the invoice, and let's see. Bingo is exactly what he's doing. It's like giving us all the component of the invoice, following a definition that I gave. Document type, invoice, document ID, whatever, vendor ID, vendor name, the address, the city, country, the bank account number, the issue date, the sales date, the due date, in a format that I did request it to be year, month, days. Is there any other format about date, by the way? The currency, and seeing if the currency is not there, you should assume is a Polish zloty. And the amount in a way that I don't want to have decimals. So it need to be multiplied by 100 basically to get a number in cents and not in the unit. It's in banking system often done like this, and I wanted to avoid, should we put a dot, a comma, or whatever. So it's a way to escape from that. The VAT, I ask for a string with percentage, and that works perfectly at the first try. And I did try with quite a lot of
specialized
invoices.
Oh yeah, okay, that's
yeah. No mistake with those particular requests I gave. And even at the beginning, I was not asking for having the address, for example, and city and country. I did add it lately. It took it immediately and works immediately. So that shows the gap in between the traditional tools and those tools. Okay. And now should I put now a real invoice in this? What is the privacy topic?
Yeah. So that depends on how you use it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I know that if you want to opt out, that your data is used by OpenAI for training purposes, you can.
So let's summarize first. This when you use ChatGPT, means the web interface. Yeah. By default, the data you need to consider is public.
It's public, but it's okay. So let's be more precise. So what they say, input and output data is yours. That's what they say. Right? But then they're also saying they're using it for training. So that's the thing, right? So data is yours. What they say explicitly for output is they cannot promise it's different than to somebody else's output. So they clearly say that, well, the output we generate for you could be the same output we generate or similar to somebody else, but it's still yours.
Yeah. And they take even the example of if we say to one, the sky is blue, we can say to someone else, the sky is blue.
Is yours.
But nevertheless, we should strongly advise, do not share private data here, because this data is used to reinforce the ChatGPT, basically. Yes. And there is several examples of leaks like this. It's corrected little by little now within OpenAI to contain this kind of thing, but nevertheless, in terms of compliance, do not. Now you have the opt-out. Yes. So from the ChatGPT interface, you can opt out to say, I don't want my data to be used for training.
You can do that.
Does it mean that I can still continue to have the memory of my chat? Or you remove...
you have to restart your chat.
Yeah. So this feature of remembering all my discussions is over from this point.
From that point on, but the new ones will be okay.
Okay, so that doesn't change the feature.
That doesn't change the feature, but there's a cut in time.
Okay. Yeah. So if you change it, you lose the past.
Well, you should.
You did opt out already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's just your email address and your what they called corporation, but everybody has a corporation. Mm-hmm. You just need to go into your account, then you find it. And, you just fill in a form and you get an email response. And
okay, so the data is retained, but is retained in a kind of sandbox that is protected
it's yours.
to and that's the same mechanism that we have through the other side, that is the API. And through the API, by default, this is safe. You can share your data. It's safe in terms of compliance, of course. If now you want to talk about sovereignty, the way your data is used,
where is it stored?
Watch the episode 1 about the CIA and FBI and whatever American governmental force can access to your data. Well, we suppose in good faith and for particular needs. So in our context, to look at invoices or whatever is not like something that we consider attacking the sovereignty of Europe doing this. So there is safe. So through the API, I can start to play with these invoices, and it works well. Same. It's the same approach. They have developed a new feature that is called Assistant. It's a bit more complex to use the API because now you need to create a thread of discussion. So it's the same idea of having the memory. So it's not just a one-shot message, but you open a thread and you're going to communicate messages within this thread. So we keep the context of the discussion exactly like we have in the interface. Yeah. And then you combine that with Zapier, Make.com, this kind of tools. It's pretty advanced. So in summary on this topic of privacy, so the ChatGPT, the web interface, by default, consider the data public. Don't use real data for your compliance. You can opt out. You find this in the general terms linked to a form. Within the API, this is safe. You can share your data there. You can opt in, by the way. There is the link to opt in to share to reinforce the model. Why not? So that is the basic of the compliance. Okay, so that's all for today.
Episode 3.
Episode 3 to come.
Merci.
And see you very soon.
Yes.
Next week, I suppose.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.